faith. But we want to celebrate the fact of what God's done at CrossFit Folks and Select Painting, and I've asked them to come prepared to answer some questions about. Did you guys get that email? I'll just ask you now, and you can just give it to me.
Speech.
Yeah, I'll let CrossFit Folks go first then. So we want to give you some space. Luke, CrossFit Folks, what led you, in 1 minute or less, possibly, what led you to want to birth CrossFit Folks?
My wife prepared all these questions.
Oh,
yeah, I'm on the fly too.
Ben got sick.
We you know, is this annoying if I sit back here?
No.
Okay. We just saw God's gift of a lot, like over 100 people through a lot of different steps of business and the environment we created and all this crazy stuff. Just a platform where people were really open to their lives. And so it was just kind of like this immediate mission field for us, where it's like these are people who have learned to trust us or respect us, or at least just come around and enjoy being there, where they aren't just showing up to work out, they actually enjoy being themselves, and you get to know them and what they care about, and they want to do stuff outside, they want to care for each other. It was like a mini church, and so we said, this is like the perfect integration of the two.
Nice. Use that word.
Yeah.
Integration. What did God do to confirm the call to plant a little church? How has God confirmed that?
I really don't know. I just think that we had.
Well, you just had a party that was pretty.
Yeah, So if like when we started to share, moving from just like Rachel and I serving and being a blessing to people in the gym to like actually recruiting people to be like, hey, we want to do this together. We immediately had like 15 people that were like, yep, we are 100% on board. So that was like in addition to our internal city church missional community. We've got probably 15 to 17 people that are all like, they're on kind of an email list or call list for like special needs or emergencies, but they're hosting meals at their homes. They're excited to like learn how to have intentional conversations with people. So that was huge confirmation for us.
Sweet. You already shared what you're most excited about?
Probably to do what we've seen in a far greater scale. So like, example would be, we were just much more prepared. We had a death in the gym of a day old, a baby boy that died, and they're not even part of the gym anymore, but they're like family, and so we just rallied the troops, and we were just much more like, hey, we now have these strategic groups that can be like, all right, we're going to pool together and do this, hey, we're going to do this, to try to be family to them.
Yeah.
It's just the scale gets bigger. The potential for more relationships, more interactions, just, is exponential.
Yeah. Sweet. What are 3 names that we can be praying for gospel conversations, for them to encounter the person and presence of Jesus? What are 3 names that you would just want us to be praying for, that they would encounter the person and presence of Jesus?
Christine, Christy, Joe.
Kelly, Joe?
Joe, Taylor. I could go like all the way down the list, but Joe.
So there's a lot, you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. But even this summer, it's like, man.
Yeah, those are like people that we've been spending a lot of time with for. Yeah.
Cool. Sweet. Thanks for sharing. All right, you guys, you primed now? All right. So what led you to want to birth a missional community?
Well, I think it started 2 years ago. Matt and I went to a conference out in California, having a business conference, and the Lord stirred us to like, we want to be intentional with how we share the gospel in our business. And on the way back, we called Daniel, and And at the time, we were planning to come back to Sioux Falls, and I think it was, just the Lord working and us discussing and processing that we started Transformed 2 years ago. And it's transformed, has transformed. But I think that's where it was really birthed, and it was birthed out of a heart of like, we have a business and we have influence, and we just want to be intentional with partnering with what God was already doing. He was doing things, he was moving, and we wanted to just ride his wave of what he was already doing.
How did God confirm that?
People signed up.
Yeah.
I think Nick Schultz, so I've been a part of this, so I feel like I can celebrate too, but Nick Schultz, he's on our core team. He came to know the Lord through Select Painting. Like legit, so many gospel conversations in so many different ways. And I remember I was supposed to do a field visit, and I'm in Costco with him because he wasn't feeling well. If you know Nick, he gets stomach issues, and he just needed some time where he's like, dude, I don't want to talk about painting. I just need some life time. So I'm like, let's go to Costco. I love samples. And I got like, we're in the middle of the aisle, and I'm like sharing the gospel with him, and Romans 8, and it's like all the many impressions of the gospel finally came to this point where he has shared that that's where Jesus became, very real to him. And it was through you guys living out these principles. And you didn't call it missional community then, but that for me, that was a big confirmation of like, this is where God is moving. Sorry. So I celebrate Select because in many ways Select is the launch pad for this whole church. Like we saw God do these things that we had prayed about. What would this look like if we did this differently? So cool. What are you guys most excited about?
I'm excited for Transform this year. In the last 2 years, it's been like very much like a class where everybody came and we ate and we learned things.
Which is weird because, I taught it and it's not what you would expect from me. I'm talking about the last 3 months, people. Sorry.
No, and it was good, but I'm excited about this year because I think we only have like 2 teachings all summer long. And the rest of it is going to be, we're sharing our gospel stories, we're scattering, we're inviting people into our lives who are a part of Select, and we're giving space to have people over for a barbecue or yard games and just have those gospel conversations. We're going to go through the story of God from Genesis to Revelation in 2 of the weeks, just to give people the whole big story and give them an opportunity to question and ask and really get to know the big picture of the Bible.
Christians and non-Christians.
Christians and non-Christians, yeah, absolutely. And then we're going to throw a couple of parties for the whole company. It's going to be fun. It's going to be very activated.
Sweet.
I'm excited to see what God does to that.
What are 3 names that we can be praying for?
I'll give Tice.
Heck yeah.
Would be one, and then I'll let you guys have people on your cruise. I don't even know who they are, but I'm sure that you guys have some, so I'll let you guys share.
David.
Mauer?
Yeah. Chris Shaw.
Hey, let's give some space for Josh and Karen. Chris Shaw. Yeah, go ahead, throw them out. I'm sure we can all pray for more than 6 people.
Tanner and Ryan. Say one from my cruise, I guess, is Sydney Boost.
Sydney.
And then another one from Jared's that I know pretty well is also Caleb Wheel Dryer.
Yeah. All right. Well, I would like us to lay hands on. Should we do the whole group? Yeah, let's do the whole group. So it's basically you and Daniel. Yeah. We want to pray for CrossFit, and then we want to pray for the SP group. So let's gather around Daniel and Luke and just bless them.
Is there going to be acronyms?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how to bless you.
Bless.
You may touch my. Yeah. So unfortunately, we don't have a ton of time, and so even though I would love us to spend a bunch of time praying for them, pray for them this week, commission them, pray for Rachel and Ben and Josiah, Kara, Azzy, Kay, Joe, all those that are not here. I'm gonna lead us in prayer, and then we're gonna move on to select. Jesus, we celebrate that there are so many things happening where people are getting impressions of who you are through the community at CrossFit. We celebrate all these things, and the one thing I pray, God, is that you would make it clear the inroads to gospel conversations and declaration in their group. God, it's so hard to balance business and respecting people's religious privacy and just being obedient to clear moments where you're opening up the heavens for conversations. So we pray you quicken their spirits. God, that you would multiply this group. In faith, I pray you would multiply 4 times in this couple of years. There's so many opportunities for people to be activated, to be displaying and declaring the gospel in the people's lives that we love and care about that are far from you. So we pray that you would multiply this group, that you would multiply leaders, that you would have everyone step up and be family, as so many of them, even non-Christians, are offering to host parties. God, they don't even know what they're getting themselves into. We're so excited to see your work, and we pray in faith that you would multiply. You would scatter these people so that people would encounter you as a person and as a presence. We love you, Lord. Amen. And then, yeah, we could have the SP group come. Yeah, go for it. And then, can I have a volunteer for someone to pray over this group? Just to commission them out.
There's too many of us.
Becky, come.
Becky.
Yeah, Becky, would you?
You're part of the group.
Oh yeah, that's right. Sorry, Justin, go for it. Yeah, it's basically everybody else.
God, we are excited what you're doing in and through the business, but God, just the ministry of Select Painting, the leaders and the vision that you've placed in their hearts. And God, we are praying as a church now for these names. God, we just pray for Tice and David and Chris and Tanner and Ryan and Sydney and Caleb, who, God, we know represent many, many, many more people. We pray that the gospel of Jesus Christ would penetrate their heart, that you would use this team of people just to be your presence and to bring your power and to proclaim the gospel of the kingdom in their midst. And God, we pray that you would do such a work in their lives that then they would turn, go and reach their networks with the same life on life, the presence of Jesus, the power of his kingdom coming in our midst and proclaiming his gospel and his goodness. So God, for this summer, with the transformation or transformed time, we do pray your blessing on that there truly would be activation. God, that each one of these folks and the people that would be involved with that, God, would live and be like Jesus. They would encounter him relationally through one another. They would enjoy just fellowship with one another, and they would catch a glimpse of what it looks like to live life on mission. So God, we pray your blessing, and we ask for movement, God, not just multiplication. We ask that you would do a mighty move where this city, God, here we are, a city church. We're praying for this city. God, we know we can't do it as one church. We need to multiply ourselves, reproduce ourselves over and over. So God, give us a vision and the ability to do that. In Jesus' name.
Awesome. Well, I feel like the Wizard of Oz a bit. We're going to give out some gifts of celebration and commissioning through some of the rhythms. So, I'm going to start throwing them. If I could have a couple volunteers to just start grabbing stuff. So real quick, you guys. Luke's going to kill me. Missional communities, in their essence, when they're healthy, are communities where we're loving God, loving one another, and loving the city. neighborhood and those that are far from God. The way that we do that is an acronym. There's lots of acronyms: gather, grow, scatter, serve. But one thing that's helpful for thinking about missional communities rhythms is this bless acronym. Blessing God, blessing one another, blessing the city. This is a sense of being generous with one another, blessing each other, being generous, and the same for the city. And so one of the things we put together like a missional community starter kit. And so to encourage and to support our missional community leaders, we're going to give some gifts and tools for the journey. The first thing for bless, I got Juice Stop gift cards for you guys to use these to bless. And you can, it doesn't matter who gets them or whatever, but gift card to Juice Stop to take those that are far from God or those in your community that just need to be blessed. Use this gift card as a reminder to be generous and to use it. And if you want to give it out to other small group leaders to bless people, whatever, do that. So blessing is just finding a tangible need and showing the extravagant love of God to you. The second one, can someone grab the duct tape for me?
Oh my gosh.
The second is L is for listen. So I got some duct tape.
Shut your mouth.
To remember to close our mouths and listen to people's stories and listen to their whys and what they're disappointed. We're gonna get into that later. Just to learn how to listen and let people be and see the gospel. See God open up doors for the gospel. So listening, that looks like listening to God, listening to one another, but listening to the lost. So that's your reminder to listen. E is for eat. Something we all do. This is like, you heard how many parties they're going to have? This is literally half of our mission is eating together. So if someone could lift up some of the benches and tables. Half of missional community is just hosting. So we've gotten these adjustable tables. Thank you, Bob Barker's Beauties, Bob's Beauties. And these benches. These are super convenient. We want to bless you guys. Whoever's hosting, we want to bless you to have, to be able to have space. Those have been huge for us. So whoever's hosting, make sure that those get to that. Also, along the lines of eating, we got some gift cards to Costco that are just for the needs of hosting and blessing. And I'm not going to put requirements on that. There were $50 tables that I wanted to get. I couldn't fit in my cart, so ideally you get a bigger table as well. But then there's an extra $100. So there's $150 on both of those. So think about what are the needs of your community and what is it going to make it to be sustainable if you're hosting, doing all these things, paper plates, whatever. You want to ask people to help with that, right? But just to get you started, we want to bless you out the door. So when we think about our rhythms of missional community, we're eating. It's such a good place to experience people and who they are. S, the first S is story. I brought one Jesus Storybook Bible. The story rhythm is really, are we telling God's story? Are we sharing stories with one another? And the big thing is that we're bringing people into the story of God. We're sharing the gospel. So I wanted to give Jesus Storybook Bibles. We forgot all of them. We'll get more. But that rhythm is be encouraged. Point people to the story of God. Point people to Jesus. That's the whole point of that Bible, is that every Bible story points to Jesus fulfilling our need for saving. So story, and then the last S is Sabbath /celebrate/recreate. Can you pull up the... So I got water balloons. So this is just a reminder, have fun with your people.
They're so cool. Have you guys seen these things?
Yeah.
They're like a tree of balloons.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It takes like 30 seconds to film.
I don't care how you use this. I just wanted you to remember this moment. If you're not having fun with each other, it's not going to be good. So have fun, recreate, Sabbath together, rest together. And then the Starbucks gift cards are for the leaders, Linus to Naples. That is to remind you to take care of your marriage, take care of yourselves, go on dates. Missional community people, babysit for them so they can do that. It's a lot that they're doing, a lot that they've started. So I think that's everything, right? So we want to do this every time we birth one. And hopefully you can remember these things and remember these rhythms by the duct tape, right? So, praise God.
So you guys know.
There's just not time. And we're not truly formed, so when we get there, we'll do that. When we can bring our team and, yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, that's awesome.
Yeah. Luke, go for it. So Luke is going to teach us.
Don't preface it. I'm just gonna
Oh, you're just going to. You don't love hearing the sound of my voice?
if you need to intro me, you can.
Luke's going to give us a very practical exercise on hospitality and listening. Oh, speaking of listening, yeah.
So yeah, let's this is gonna be highly interactive. Okay. Maybe just circle around your table, or if you are at the table, maybe then grab a partner or two.
Do we need to know them, Luke?
Well, I'm gonna probably break you up later. So just conversation partners right now. Just have people nearby you can peel off and talk to. Groups 2 and 3s. Anybody need one? Almost, but Dean, do you have one? Gary? Anybody else does not have one? Alright, so we are going to talk. We did a hospitality session months ago. Regina and I, she mostly did that with the birthdays. I kind of prefaced it with like some gospel hospitality. We are going to talk about hospitality tonight. I'll probably skip a couple things, but we're really going to center in on listening. Okay, so especially as we're moving into opportunities to host. Not all the opportunities we have will be hosting. Some of them will be, hey, we're just going to a party or a gathering and we're there. But I want you to specifically start thinking about listening. To kick off, start thinking about hospitality. Start thinking about your life experience. Turn to your neighbors, and I want you to tell them maybe a very, very short story about a time you experienced just outrageous hospitality. Where somebody just really showed you hospitality. Explain it. What was it like? How did you feel? Tell them the story. Ready? Go.
So I went to Cabo San Lucas with Sherry, and we went there to see Nate. And he was there on he was helping with that's what it was. And anyway, he introduced us to the Burger King guy, Tom Walsh.
Yeah.
And I had no idea what he was like. Heard about it. But he immediately invited us. He immediately invited us to lunch with him. And then after lunch, he said, the next day I want you to come to our spend the day with me and my wife. And he's kind of a, worldly guy. I understand that. But the strategy of making an impression with those kinds of actions were overwhelming as far as making an impression. So anyway, that would be a good example with smaller scale.
Yeah.
So he just needs to buy a yacht?
I like it.
Oh boy.
That's right.
I'm going to get you on my board.
One of my experiences with hospitality that's really shaped me is one time we were out in Pennsylvania visiting friends of his, and I was staying with a couple I'd never met before, and they had set up a room for me and had this just basket.
2 minutes.
I would need for weekends, water and granola bars and chopstick, and it's like the woman had everything a young girl would need in like a new city, and it's a small thing, but it was so impactful for me. So it's something I remember now.
And after that, you always did that with our
I do that
guests.
every time. Yeah. Create this basket thinking, so what as someone who's in Sioux Falls, what might someone
All right, I want to share mine. We got to
Okay,
Ukraine
you've
at
not
10
shared. You
p.m.
need to share now.
10 p.m. and they provided a 5-course meal to us at 10 p.m. at night.
And then the next morning at 7 a.m. another.
I could not believe, I was so wiped. And here we get to this table and there is Ukrainian food everywhere. That was so profound. Like, who are these people?
All right, bring it in.
Bring it in.
Bring it in, Brick. All right, so based on, I know I'm cutting you off, but based on what you heard or what you said, describe or give me some words that kind of describe what was powerful about that, or what was amazing about that. So words, feelings, what was that experience like?
Extravagance.
Okay, extravagance.
Generosity.
Okay.
Welcoming.
Okay.
Someone had foresight into what I would need.
Did you write my lesson?
Well. I mean, you
Foresight.
did live with us, so.
What else? How did you feel?
I would say
Honored.
Honored. Okay.
That's good.
Huh?
value. Say it, yeah, value.
Value.
Yeah, that's good.
And what were some of those things that made you feel that way?
Attention to detail.
Okay.
That's good.
Every detail? Or certain ones?
Anticipated needs.
Oh, come on, go ahead.
Yeah.
No, you're good.
What were some of those needs? Don't go tell me the story, but what were some of the needs?
Basic physical.
Okay, physical
What
needs.
are
Yeah.
physically?
So what? Like what? Food? Come on, shout them out.
Food, water, chapstick.
Chapstick.
Yeah. Literally. Seriously.
Like beauty?
Beauty.
I'll sleep anyway. Give me the coffee table.
What else? How'd you feel? How did you act? Or what did it make you want to do?
Be really thankful. Well,
Huh?
that or like half the time when this kind of stuff happens, I'm like, no, I don't want it. Because I just feel like I'm taking too much from somebody.
Huh, interesting.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of guilt.
There's some
Unworthy-
guilt there.
unworthiness,
Like my
yeah.
example was when I go over to my grandma's house and I'm full or whatever, and then I'm
She's
just
like,
saying
"Here,
hi," and
have
she's
more.
like, here are brownies, and you're like,
Yeah.
no, I don't want anymore.
And that is
But at the
that
same time,
hospitality.
you do it because
You've got to
you love her
ask.
and she loves
Yeah.
you. So.
I'm not gonna rag on your grandma. Don't worry. Anything else for this list?
I felt really like interesting. I felt like an interesting person.
Okay.
Interested in. I guess
Yes.
that's-
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Celebrated.
Yeah.
I felt really seen.
Now we're getting there. Okay. Yeah.
The winner!
That's what it was looking for.
Seen. Another word for that is
No.
known.
This is ringing a bell.
Okay.
Church is F.
This is awesome. All right. So this was awesome, right? So some of you probably described, like they served us. It was like over the top. It was super nice, and there was like detail. Maybe they just cared for your kid. Like all this stuff. But some of you also said non-physical things, so we'll want to take note of those. Don't turn to your neighbor and tell the story. Okay, if you can do it short, you've got 2 minutes.
Oh, God.
Tell some small quips. Do not throw anybody under the bus. Of just places where you felt more hostility than hospitality. It may have been very well intentioned, but you ended up feeling uncomfortable. Okay? What were those things? Go ahead and share them in your groups.
This group, collaborative group, that was meant to be a bridge between two very opposing forces. And I think I realized after I came into the group that I was the only one. I was on one side and everyone else was on the other side because I'd say things and everyone would. I think I just.
I heard street beef over there.
Nobody agrees. And then, the leader of the group kept asking me really kind of rude questions, really suggestive questions like, well, how would that make sense? And so I just suddenly realized this space is meant to be between two very different worlds, but it ended up being really hostile. Like we all gathered because we were being hostile.
You know, by the way, yeah, I got rocks. I don't even remember now, but I
Okay, then skip ahead and start thinking about where was the place you really didn't like.
get one or two things or whatever. I don't know.
Okay, finish up, 30 seconds.
So would you say yourself physical? Well, I didn't have any friends, so
You're welcome.
Okay, shout some of them out. What were these experiences like? How did it make you feel?
Yeah.
Okay, what else?
Challenged.
Okay, you want to extrapolate on that? Without telling the story?
That's right. Just feeling like what you believe in doesn't seem to matter.
Dean, for the win. Okay, so yes, we'll just leave it as challenge.
Okay.
Anybody else? What else?
It was like a bait and switch.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know what I was getting into
Yes.
exactly
Yes.
until you get there and you're like, what?
Yeah.
This isn't what I
That
signed
I
up
know.
for.
Is it Halloween costume?
Rejected
Rejected,
and unwelcome.
unwelcome,
Like basically on all the left side there.
awkward, confused,
Outside.
outsider. Yeah.
Circle of trust.
Just like one in a crowd. Like just a part of it.
A number.
the same thing that I was at?
Wait a minute.
Yeah, we've talked.
So, what? Maybe come back to this side, or maybe that side. Which of these had to do primarily with like non-physical things? I'm sorry, that was a poorly put question. What do you notice about maybe the list or some of the stories? Like, what dominated it? Was it like what they did for you, or like the stuff, or was it how it felt? I can
Amazing question.
yeah.
I got it.
But you guys, like every one of these words has to do with how you felt, really.
Yeah.
So this is kind of serious stuff, right? Or it's impactful. When we go somewhere or we interact with people, we feel either this or this. So it's really important to take note of, right? So like up here, seen and known, interested in, celebrated, valued, honored, foresight or needs, so served, we'll go served here. Welcomed, maybe experiencing extravagance, like this is just a lot of love here. These are all things that are non-physical. I want you to think about, so I think the contrast is clear, but I want you to start thinking about relationships. Depending on whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, I kind of want you to set that aside. And I want you to just think about, as people and knowing yourself and hopefully having a little bit of self-awareness, where, when you leave a party or an engagement or a church gathering or a dinner, what do you leave? Because obviously you left these places thinking like, wow, they really served us, or they really thought about the details. But what did you really leave being like, that was a really rewarding experience, or that was a really powerful or engaging experience? Like, what was it about the time together that you typically walk away with?
I think for me it's like social interaction, just like.
What do you mean by social interaction?
Well, like you can go to like a party or a gathering, and this is kind of the hostility side where like you're kind of just a fly in the wall, and nobody like actively comes up and tries to talk to you, especially if you're an introvert and you don't start conversations.
Yep.
But the other end of the spectrum is like when you come to a place where you feel like you're known and you're valued, if people will come up and strike up a conversation with you, or you feel comfortable enough to talk with them. Like just talking with people is honestly one of the best things for me in any given situation.
Yeah, so you walked away with like the relational conversation as being the most important piece of the night. Is that a shared sentiment? We want to push back on that?
I would like tag on like intentional conversation, like
Okay.
with like intentional questions, not just
Yes.
like, yeah, did you read about whatever in the newspaper? Like, but like specific to being known. Or
Yeah.
intentionality.
So it's obvious that there are things in nature or in beauty or in our homes or in the way that we serve each other, all of that makes us feel things. But ultimately, really what we're talking about when we're talking about hospitality and hostility are internal things or relational things that become internal things, right? So culturally, as we talked I think in the last session, when we think about hospitality, what do you typically think about culturally? Like what is culture, U.S. culture or American culture
Hotels?
typically talk about?
Yeah, hospitality.
Service industry.
Services, yeah, what else? Like when you say I'm gonna host a party, what does that typically mean?
Where are you spending money?
Bring people
I'm gonna just say entertainment. Like entertaining people. Right? Hospitality is not entertainment. Hospitality is also not performing. So when we're starting to think about, okay, we're going to have people in our homes, we already have people in our homes, or we're going to throw parties or SP galas across the city, whatever you guys are going to do.
Galas!
We obviously are not trying to perform, and we're obviously not trying to entertain people. We're wanting people to walk away having experienced these things. So they come from, I'm trying to create a separation here. They come from physical things like attention to detail. They come from things like physical needs being met, food, water, is there enough stuff? Like, do I know where it is somebody providing for my needs? It comes from things like, does your house look beautiful? It comes from things like, anybody else want to throw any other physical ones out there? Environmental ones?
Your home smells nice.
Home smells nice, so like the senses. Like those are all super important things, but I think the problem is because of how we think about it culturally, we tend to think like if I have all of those things in order, then people will walk away with these things. And you're all like inside, no, that's not true, right? Because it's not true. What are really are the things that people are walking away with? You named all of them. They're interpersonal, right? That sounds disastrous.
Do you know what that's all about? The cookies.
Oh no. Like fighting over the cookies?
Yeah, he's just begging to have cookies.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, thanks.
That's pretty good. So what I'm starting to drive toward and what you all pulled out is that hospitality primarily has to do with us, not our stuff. That is what tonight is about, okay? It's not setting aside the need to pay attention to detail. What did you say? 3 things that people look at when they go into your house are fresh cut flowers, is your entryway clean, and a clean bathroom? Maybe that's helpful for you to be like, okay, then I don't have to worry about my entire house looking amazing, but I can worry about these certain things. So I'm not throwing all of it out saying, just invite everybody over, however your house looks. Yeah, it's fine. There is importance of attention to detail, and there are important. We're going to talk about how to serve people, but the penultimate things people and we are yearning for as humans is that interpersonal. Did I feel valued and welcomed and honored and interested in and seen and known? So I need to take a pause because I skipped a couple of things. So let's maybe go this way. When you have held, maybe hosted somebody over for dinner, which are you primarily concerned about? Your posture, like how you are, or your place, how your house looks?
My place. I'm sure it's clean.
What else would everybody else say? Raise your hand if you primarily think about place when you think about having people over your house. And so what is that like going on in your head while people are coming or while they're there? What's going on in your head?
what do they need? Is the food ready? Like,
Yep.
just this
Yeah.
ongoing list of like,
And is it the entire time?
maybe not the entire time,
Okay.
but until the meal's
Yeah.
done and
Okay.
cleaned up, okay, now we can like
Yeah.
Okay.
cool our jets.
Anybody else want to comment on that?
I want to bring people into a chaotic environment.
Yep.
I want to create a peaceful space
Yep.
for them to come into.
Does anybody think primarily about posture, like you, how you are? Maybe? If there's some nods out there, give me some
Can
commentary.
you elaborate on what you mean by posture specifically?
Well, yeah, like, where you're like, where's Daniel? Like, Daniel probably doesn't really care what's going on in the house. He's glued on you. He's like, hey, I don't know what's on your life. There's a fire right here, and he's like glued to you. That's what I'm talking about, posture, but where you're more concerned about the interpersonal stuff that's happening, less about, hey, is stuff ready? Is there things? So please raise your hand. So somebody will raise their hand. Yeah, thank you.
Why am I raising my hand?
Okay, more posture people than place
Oh,
people.
yeah.
So we're kind of split in the room. And the point is we need everybody. But I want you to flip to the front of your sheet. So here's our primary point. I want to read this quote from Nouwen. Henry Nouwen writes like fantastic commentary on hospitality. If you have a chance, it's an epic chapter that really changes like the heart behind hospitality. I'll read it out, so follow along. Hospitality means primarily the creation of free space where the stranger can enter and become a friend instead of an enemy. Hospitality is not to change people, but to offer them space where change can take place. It is not to bring men and women over to our side, but to offer freedom not disturbed by dividing lines. Is that not fantastic? So some of you pointed that out, right? Some of the things he's talking about, where Dean said the opposite, where he was in an experience where he felt challenged, where he couldn't be himself or believe what he believed. Somebody said the opposite, where they were like, I felt championed or taken interest in what I believe. If you want to think, I'm not going to go into the whole thing, but I love that that Nouwen kind of talks about hospitality like if you could imagine this kind of space in front of you, that it goes with you wherever you go, and when someone steps into that or you invite someone into that space, you have an opportunity to be hospitable to them. And we talked about intellectual hospitality versus hostility, right? But this is a thing that is kind of always with you in your person, that you could imagine being like your living room. So my living room is always set here before me. When someone comes over, I'm not going to put away all my stuff or all the things I believe in or take my crosses off the wall or whatever. I'm going to leave them up because this is who I am. At the same time, I'm not going to force who I am onto who they are, because then the opportunity for hospitality gets spoiled, right? So we're always thinking about, this is not about me right now. This is about our guests or about who is stepping into our life. So you can think about it physically, like who's coming into my house. We want to, like we live in a house, so we don't have to clean it all up polished like it looks on HGTV. It needs to look like people live in it, right? That's a part of who we are, is that we live in this house. So you invite people into it. In the same way you get to invite people into your life, you're not pushing on them your agenda. You're interested in hearing their story, right? So that's what Nouwen's getting at, is he's talking about everything that you think about when you're thinking about hospitality involves both posture and place. How you are and what kind of an environment you create, right? Go to the back. Essentials of hospitality. So we're thinking here, like, what are some helpful things that we can actually run with as we move into our season? I ran out of peas. Like, I did try to do the sermon prep pea thing. We prepare. If we have time, we prepare. We pray. We posture. We provide, and we listen. just like if you're overwhelmed thinking about how do we have people in our homes or how do we do this, maybe this is a helpful way to just break it down a little bit. Prepare. How can I create a relaxed, thoughtful environment? So that's where you're starting to think about your attention to detail. What can I do to create an environment that people are very comfortable in? So shout those things out. What are those things, those details that matter?
Clean house.
Cleanliness. What else?
Candles.
Okay, so senses.
Fresh cut flowers.
Yeah, what else mattered in the physical sense? Food, water, right? Have you ever been somewhere where they have not offered you those things and you're like famished or whatever? It's things. So, yeah, what else? What other physical things that you maybe need to prepare for? To think about, hey, my ultimate goal of hospitality is to help somebody feel very, very comfortable to be themselves. What are some of those things that you could be doing?
Not making your house too clean to where people feel like they can't touch anything or like.
Interesting.
I've heard that from people. They're like, I like a kind of messy house, otherwise I feel like uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. So, yes, I'm just going to segue off that. I learned from somebody who knew somebody. So this is a really dumb thing. I learned in a school, and they were really good friends with the Ritz-Carlton people. And their like mission statement internally was like, we want to create an environment that's casual, yet refined. And I think that's like a really interesting one. There's probably some of us that are way more refined. But where people feel comfortable, where it's not like I have to be uptight and I don't know all the etiquette and I don't know like how to not mess up your stuff. It's casual. Come, have a drink, sit down, like let's play with your kids, like whatever. But it's still not just like chaotic or confusing, right? So there's little things that you can do to make sure people feel comfortable coming in. We talked big time about internal needs. So like, what do people actually need? When someone's coming over, how often do you think you actually know what they need? How often is it that you know what they really need? Sometimes. Yeah. So the times you do know, you're able to provide for that. Does somebody have a quick example of something where they're like, I know that somebody needs that, I got it for them?
Like we had some people over, we knew they were going through divorce, so we knew just sit and listen.
Yeah.
Love on
Yep.
them and.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, it's easy when you're inviting someone over, like, a friend says, I'm really struggling with this.
Yep.
You want to come over and talk about it.
Yep.
I think you got this really clear.
Yep. Yep. So if you know them, you can provide for them. And I would focus on doing that, right? Because that's going to be really helpful for them. If you don't know, the second point is pray, is ask God. Ask God maybe for a word of knowledge or something where it's like, God, I don't know what this person needs, but I pray that you would provide it through me, or you would make it known something that they really need. I don't think that goes through my head enough when I think about people coming over, where I'm like, I don't really know where this person's at. Ask God, God, where is this person at? Posture. This is what we're going to do. We're going to exercise posture tonight. How can I be a relaxed, thoughtful presence? Not putting this on you because you said you only do it during the meal. I'll put this on myself. I'm the detail, like trying to serve people, make sure they have drinks, and like make the girls going. And all of a sudden, somebody was like, "Dude, chill out." At my last party, he's like, "You're fine. Your kids are fine. They're like, just be here." And so like that is my tendency, is to run around and make sure everybody has what they need. Then I'm never ever present. So posturing is important. We think about if people come to our homes and we're chaotic, they're going to feel uncomfortable. And so I know that's not always, sometimes you are chaotic, you got to be yourself, I get that. But it's saying, how can I be relaxed in serving them? And so that they don't feel like they have to be something they're not. What are my guests' physical needs? So that's to provide. We talked about that. How can we offer the best of what we have, not holding back when people come over? That kind of came with the extravagance. Did you say that one? Yeah, like really serving people, loving them, showing them more than they would ever see. Not to like make them feel like you're better than them, but just to be really generous with them. And lastly would be listen. So if the goal of hospitality is presence and creating that space for people to be themselves. Because wouldn't that be the dream, right? It's not just that we would walk into engaging with people and be like, God, what's the word that they need that would just like break their hearts, and they'd be, like this WWE version of like evangelism where it's like, what do they need? I'm gonna speak it, and then they're gonna break. Like, what if we? I don't know.
Hit him with the chair from behind.
What if our approach to, especially with people we don't know as well, was more, how can we get them to start talking? Start opening up their heart to you. Wouldn't that be an amazing experience to get to know them, to hear what they value, to hear what they care about? So that's the listen. That's why bless. That's why L is on listen. L is on bless rhythms. It's because we want to, I think, start thinking about, as we're having people over, we want to invite and serve their needs, but we really, really want to hear their story, and we want to know who they are, right? That becomes the platform for so many things. So we're going to do a little exercise tonight. I know I'm rushing, but we're going to do a little exercise. It may make some of you a tad uncomfortable, but I think you're gonna see a lot of really cool benefit to this. The thing about listening, we tend to maybe assume that like really good listeners are people like Regina, or people who are trained counselors who like have learned how to do that practically. But I think all of us can grow in our ability to listen. How many of you go to a party and you realize, or are you primarily the people that ask questions, or are you primarily the people that get questions asked to you? Asked or ask? Isn't it interesting that if you really think about it, probably more of us like ask. Have you, like, I just went to a party yesterday and nobody asked me a single question. I was floored by that. And I was not like being over the top with my question asking. It was just like, do you want to know about my life at all? So like, it's rare. And I don't think we realize how rare it is, because we maybe do more stuff together and we ask each other, how are you doing? How's your family? What do you feel right now? People don't do that in the world. Like, that's a foreign thing. So we bring such a gift when we can simply serve them by listening. The thing with listening, I put some like tips for listening. I think when we think about listening, we're like, how do I navigate the conversation? And I think that's a poor way of thinking about it, because then you're kind of trying to figure out, how do I like lead them to a gospel conversation? Instead of just maybe having some good questions that if they're we talk about people of peace, if they're like ready to go there with you, that you kind of keep giving them the opportunity to do it. So it is about questions, but when I talk about posture and place, the same things that we think about with our like homes and why that's comfortable, start thinking about that, how you are, okay? The kind of tone that you have, the kind of attention you give. So I wrote a couple down, look through them. I talked about tips on listening. This is a very short list, but would be an attentive, receptive posture. You're not laid back or distracted. So you're not like, hey, so like, how's your family? How you feeling? Like, you're actually maybe on the edge of your seat. You're. This is funny, right? But we maybe need this. Like, what do you need? Like, I'm attentive. I'm listening to you. The next one is warm eye contact. Like, you're actually. Thank you. You're actually engaging with them with your eyes. You're not focused away from them. You're not focused on your drink. You're actually engaged with them. Neutral or appropriate reaction to what is said. We just have to do this. Like, what are the things that you say that you know that you're just saying them to like bridge?
Yeah.
What else? What else do you say? Sure.
That's so neat.
So neat. Come on. Like, you got to be aware of what you do, not to be like, not to, whatever. Just say them. What else do you say? I say awesome. Far too much. That's so awesome. No, it's not.
Everything is awesome.
What do you say? Like, what do you
Cool.
say where you're not really listening? You just be like, wow, that's really cool.
And they're like, my daughter just got like really sick. Cool.
What else? What do you say? What do you happen to say? Huh.
Wow. Interesting.
Interesting. Yeah.
So I can make fun of myself because I do this, but like it's the common pastor thing. Like when somebody says something like, Well, the interesting thing about all of that, and like you would know this because maybe I'm like in a totally different school of thought, but when you approach people more neutrally, you're giving them the grounds to take the conversation where they need to. When you show excitement with your eyes, or where you do the like awkward, like I don't know what to do when you just drop that my sister's coming out thing. You're like, I don't know what to do right now. The minute you do that, they change direction. So like, I know this sounds so silly, but like it's really important for us to think about what do we do with our faces, or what do we do with our bodies. If we don't have anything to be afraid about because of the gospel and who we are, then we can be present with somebody and hear their crap and not shy away from it and not, like do awkward things to try to avoid it. We can actually sit with them and be present with them. We can even cry with them in public, right? It just does something when we move away from our normal habits to being truly attentive. Like, I want to hear you, and I want to hear what your heart has to say. So your reactions can steer a conversation more than you think they do. Okay? And so that's what we're going to practice tonight. I left you with some questions. We can talk about that later, but we're going to scatter and do this exercise, okay? It's called inquiry. We're going to do 3 minutes, okay? You're going to pair up with a person. You're going to scatter. Probably some of us need to go out of the room, but separate yourselves from each other. I want you to take on a posture with someone, okay, where you're sitting with them, you don't have to be like totally upright, but just sit across from this person, okay? Person one, me, I'm going to do the receiving or the listening, and I'm going to practice receiving what Daniel has to say. So as Daniel's talking to me, I'm doing the things that I just listed. Like, my eyes are warm. I'm like, I want to hear what you have to say, Daniel. But when he says something to me, I'm not going to be like, oh, dude, that's awesome. You're not going to say anything. You're not going to move a muscle. You're just going to maintain this posture of receiving. It may be really hard for you. But it won't be because you're friends. Just like be a normal person, but don't do the normal reactions that you normally give. Just be neutral.
No facial.
Yeah, try to just look into their eyes and just be present. Okay? This person is going to respond to a single question that you're going to ask them. So I'm going to have you ask this question to each other. I'm going to ask Daniel, what are you disappointed in? And Daniel is going to say, I'm disappointed in the way that blah, 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 blah.
Are you okay?
Yeah, this is going to get real, but we're all church
started crying. This is amazing.
And then, okay, he's going to say something and he's going to run out of words. Not Daniel. He won't run out of words. And then instead of ending the conversation, I'm going to just ask him the question again. Daniel, what are you disappointed in? Daniel, what are you disappointed in? So anytime they stop, you're just going to ask them the same question. Okay? We're going to go for 3 minutes. It's not a terribly long time. I'm going to cut you off, and you need to be done at 3 minutes. I don't care where the conversation is. You're done, and you're going to switch roles. If you're weeping, this is a good exercise. Okay? Don't be afraid to do that. You just weep with each other. Okay? But at the end of the 3 minutes, is everybody scared by this? It's awesome. Seriously. You'll be like, this is so cool. What? You are? Yeah. So then after the 3 minutes, you're going to flip, and the other person's going to go. And you're going to do the same thing. Now Daniel's going to receive what I have to say to him. He's just going to ask me that question. What are you disappointed in? What are you disappointed in? Okay? Think we can do that? Mm-hmm. So I want you to find, I'll try to do this, but I want you to find somebody you don't know very well.
Ooh. Okay, let's just do this
Find
one
someone,
scary step at a time.
Well, we've been doing this for how many months here? Okay,
Yeah,
so
welcome.
hustle up, go grab somebody you don't know, scatter out onto the room. I'm going to run the timer at 3 minutes. You're
We can do that at all of our parties. All
Yeah.
of our MC parties.
Whiskey brief.
Better edit.
When you what was it like for you to receive? What was it like for you to listen?
So hard to not say,
Oh yeah.
I did.
Yeah?
I did it.
I even did it a couple times. I couldn't prevent myself from saying.
Yeah.
It hurt my face.
Okay, yeah.
It really did.
What was it like though?
Really hard not to ask follow-up
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Good follow-up questions.
Yeah.
Well, I was curious and I wanted to know more, but
Yeah.
Yep. So,
I found myself being more focused on what he was saying versus me trying to figure out what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
yes.
Dean, you should teach half our class.
Yes, I agree.
That was the answer I
So
was looking for.
Yes.
well, let's pray.
Yeah, right. So good, right? Because you're never going to do that. Apart from an exercise where you ask someone repeatedly the same question, they're going to be like, stop. I know, I'm just starting because they've already gotten me.
Oh, you already told him? That on me yesterday, and that's exactly what he yelled at me. I asked him the question 4 times.
You tried this on a date?
Yeah.
Oh, Daniel, you talked to us about it.
I said don't do it on a date. I would not recommend this in marriages.
Oh, it was
We're gonna do
terrible.
that.
I got so mad.
Can you repeat that point that Dean made? to
Dean
these four guys?
said what he realized was that he was way more focused on what they had to say than trying to prepare what he was going to say. Right?
That's the ticket.
What was that? What was that like for you to
It's really
hear?
hard not to respond.
Yeah. What
Like,
about
more than
positives?
not.
I know
Felt like
I just
it created a safe place to share more.
Yeah.
Knowing that they're not going to respond.
Did you say did create a safe place to
They
share?
did.
Yeah, I know. You could say anything, and there'd be no reaction, so I could say anything.
Which is why it doesn't work in marriage. We're gonna talk later. Anything else?
At the same time, it can be really intimidating though. I mean, because for me, most of my life, it's been trying to make friends, and the way I do that is by being like them. So like not knowing what their values are, because then they're nodding or they're like giving you that like, hey, that's
Yeah.
okay face. Like you don't know, but that makes you so vulnerable and so yourself, because all you know at that point is how to share who you are
That's really good.
without them giving you any values behind it.
Yes.
We got a little political.
It's fine.
That was scary. I was like, wait a minute, I'm getting political, and it's like, I'm just gonna say what I have to say, I guess. It hurts you.
So hopefully that was like a blessing to you. Like that's the whole point, was that you just got to hear somebody's heart. And that matters. And so like that's like now one talks about like that every guest that comes into your house is a gift to give you. And it's their story. And so like that's kind of what you got to experience there, was like somebody share their story. What was it like on the other side? What was it like to, so what did I say, share? Or receive? No, what was it like to share? What was it like to be a sharer looking at the person across the table from you? A lot quieter.
I don't want to talk about it.
I know, right?
I think that's what I was just talking about, was the sharing part, not
Yeah.
the listening part.
Okay, yeah, that would make more sense.
I don't know what to think about it, but I don't know if it applies to anything, but I didn't look him in the eye very much.
Yeah.
Like, I was processing,
Yeah.
and my eyes were like up here somewhere, and I'm thinking in my head about what I'm going to share, and I very rarely looked at him.
Was that because he wouldn't respond?
I
Or was
don't,
that just because he was uncomfortable?
I don't know. Yeah.
I did the same thing. I couldn't look at her. No.
What else?
It's hard to talk to someone about something, a discipline's pretty personal.
Yeah.
So that
Yep.
I mean, I got tears in my eyes when I started talking. So I
Yep.
thought it
Yep.
was good to be heard. And
Yeah.
I mean, the way she was looking at me, I know she was listening and
Yes.
connecting with
Yep.
me. And so, yeah, that's very blessed. I know I'm one now.
Yeah. Yeah, depending on our style, we all like maybe approach that as a talker. But I guess, like Jared, how was it for you?
I
Put you on the
didn't
spot.
think I was going to cry, but I did within like 45 seconds.
That's awesome.
He didn't even do anything. He just said what he's disappointed, and I just like, I lost.
So some of you who Exactly. Some of you who are like have done not this exercise but are used to sharing your heart, you usually like, I'm disappointed in myself and I'm disappointed in everything that's happened to me, and I'm like, it just kind of comes. Some of us are like, I'm disappointed that I ate the wrong thing for breakfast, and then you're like, and I'm disappointed about this, and this cascade happens where now people start pretty shallow, and then you ask them the question again, and they're like, yeah, I'm actually really disappointed in the way my parents treated me, and I'm really disappointed in, and it just like all of a sudden comes out. It's just like cascade. That is something that you won't create that environment, but when you're asking those follow-up questions, that's what you're inviting people to do, right? What was it like growing up where you did? Or no, where'd you grow up? And then a follow-up question like, what was it like growing up where you did? What were some of the things that you really liked about it? What were some of the things you didn't like about it? And then maybe they give like a little gem of something that, with their parents or whatever, like, yeah, how's the relationship with your dad? You can keep directing that, and it invites them to go deeper. What we just experienced was you go deeper just because somebody was listening to you. So we live in, I know I'm taking time, but I don't really care right now, I'm sorry. We live in, just to be hospitable to y'all. No, just a couple quick things. Like, we live in a culture that lives on anonymity. Like, that will go on the website, or on the website, it's like an old man. Go on
the web pages.
Why are you looking at Dean?
I didn't. You all look at Dean.
I would have felt it.
the look. No, like, we crave anonymity. We crave the ability to just simply share everything to somebody that doesn't, that cares, or somebody that won't judge us back or won't think differently about us. Culture craves it. Millennials crave it. That's why there's like apps that are built out there simply for that reason. Like somebody just to dump their life disappointments and stories so that somebody, a computer program, would actually hear what they say. Like, that is the state of our culture. So we have this opportunity as the church to be good listeners, to actually care about people's lives and not get distracted when things get awkward, but to actually keep being present and do all that we can to give them a safe place to be themselves. And it's up to God, and it's up to them how they want to respond to that. You can't force it, but you can do your job in just being the best, most present listener you possibly can be, right? So start thinking about that as you move into your hosting.
Is it a good process to ask that question over and over again? Or do you make the person more uncomfortable?
It's an exercise that we'll do here. I would not recommend doing that.
Okay, good.
I mean, if you have it, yeah, if it makes sense, but please don't do that in public and don't do it with your spouse. Does anybody have any final questions? And we got to clean up. So
do it again. Practice with other people.
Yeah, practice this in your MCs. Especially you guys at Transform, you'll do it, right? Find other people to do this with. Teach them how to be good listeners. I threw some questions down at the bottom, just really helpful, like questions that I've used to help people go beyond the surface. Like, where'd you grow up? What do you like to eat? It's like trying to get them to deeper level stuff. So, bless you in the name of the Lord Jesus. Clean up.
Yeah, so if you just want to grab whatever food that you brought in.